What's up, guys? It's Ayokay.
And this is Quinn XCII. We're hanging out with Rob on Front Row Live.
I gotta admit, the first time I saw your name, I thought initially I read Quincy.
Inside joke. It's like, I swear, together we kind of came up with it. We're like, it kind of like, we didn't really think of it as Quincy, but like somebody told us, they were like, I guess I could meet, I guess like that one person thought it was Quincy. Yeah. And then we happened to meet like 60, 70 more people. They're like, oh, like Quincy, great meeting you. And we're like, dude, it's not it. So I like correct everybody every time. It's Quinn XCII. Just everybody out there who's confused by it. I understand obviously now, but
it's hilarious because it makes him so mad when people call him Quincy.
It's so like smile, like, yeah, it's Quinn XCII.
Behind closed doors, I always call him Quincy, especially when I'm pissed at him. But it's funny.
Well, now I know if I hear that, I know what's going on. So you guys recently signed to Columbia. You guys are like their newest artist right now. How did this opportunity happen for you guys?
It was largely through Kings of Summer. Our track that was used by Ian Desmond of the Texas Rangers is his walk-up song. So the song had been like doing a lot of really good stuff on Spotify at the time already, but then Ian Desmond picked up the song and used it as his walk-up song, and we just kind of saw this explosion of the song in Dallas, and like from there everything kind of domino affected. They found us, and like that's kind of how it went down. They had been following us for a little bit though. We had a meeting with them early on, and they were one of the labels that like when we met with them, we just knew something was very different about them. They had like this kind of forward thinking way of doing things, so we had a really good vibe with them already. And then Kings of Summer I think was the tipping point.
Yeah, well, it's great though because we have so much more music just before Kings of Summer. It's not until now where we're really starting to see a lot of like success, but Alex produced exclusively my last two EPs. So like we have all this new music that we can now share with the world that hasn't heard it yet. Now that we're on like a label and we have this bigger platform, and from here just kind of extending our network and just working as much as we can and putting out new stuff. So Kings of Summer was definitely that tipping point for us, but we have so much more in the works, and we're just pumped to very very pumped to be here. So it's cool.
I find it cool that like Columbia not only got a new artist, but they got two new artists because you guys are still doing your separate projects.
Yeah. Well, I think what was so great about them is they really understood our dynamic. Our A&R at Columbia like knew how involved I was with his project and knew how like instrumental he was to what I do. So he signed the two of us, and like they kind of gave us like this even platform to continue to collaborate as like a collective, but also have the two separate projects. So
and it's great because now we're still gonna work together. Like this dynamic is something we're really gonna hone in on still, and because it's got us to this point, so we don't want to like tamper with it at all, but it's gonna let us network even more and just kind of like split up into our own identities sort of, but still come back to each other and like work, because he's gonna produce like the most of my album coming out this January. I'll still be featured on his upcoming singles hopefully. Who knows actually. But,
change the name to Quincy.
Featuring Quincy,
No, but it's cool to kind of have this relationship where we can always kind of lean on each other in terms of advice and just collaborating in general. It's good to kind of have somebody behind your corner, because in the industry that doesn't really happen. Right. Most of the time that does not happen. So it's cool to kind of come up with somebody that you can trust and has your back, but still is like a musical influence and you can work with, and it's nice, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like we came up on music together. I think like we started making it, we learned how to make it together. So us being under one roof at Columbia, like with the same A&R, like provides us like the opportunity to keep collaborating and like really just like pick each other's brains, which is great.
I like it because when you're growing up, like you're with your best friend doing whatever it is that you guys are pursuing. It's like, dude, when I blow up, I'm bringing you with me. Mm-hmm. But how often like does that really happen? And that's exactly what you guys are doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. It's a great story, and like. Again, I say it a lot, but like it was very uncontrived, like we just were kind of doing what we knew how to do, and it got us this level like without really any planning. So it's amazing to see the success. We're so grateful.
Now, when you guys are collaborating on music, you're singing, but you're helping with the writing process, right? And then you're doing like the melodies and stuff, or
yeah. So I'll write. Our creative process is always all over the place, but typically I'll write a melody, and from there we'll kind of. Most of the time, it's a majority of me with the lyrics, but Alex definitely feeds in on his take and kind of helps me tweak little things here and there. And same with production. I don't produce anything, but obviously tell him like what do I think sounds better, and he trusts me with that sound, and that's kind of it's extremely back and forth. But mostly it's I handle the writing, Alex does production. So it's a cool little team we got going. But we are separate artists, so it's extremely interesting. Like I don't think you really see that in the industry. Like that dynamic is rare, kind of. But we love doing it, and so we're trying trying to stick with it as much as possible. So
I think the best writing definitely comes when we're in a room together. So like it's really good when I produce out some snippet of music and then we're in the room together and he can just bounce his ideas off me, because he's really quick with coming up with great melodies, and I think he bounces them and filters them through me a bit, and I kind of help guide him a little bit. But like it's just a great way for him to bounce his ideas off of and like stay on like a straight path. Right. So yeah.
And how does that really work for you guys when you guys are working on music together? Because again, you guys are two separate projects. So if you're working on your project, but maybe you wrote something that you want to keep for yourself, like how does that really work out for you guys?
I think it's starting now to get a little bit like more interesting. You know, previously to me releasing my EP, which just came out like 2 weeks ago, it had been like everything I produced was his first, and if he didn't want it, I could maybe do something else with it. But now that I've launched my artist project, like really full-fledged, and he's working on his album, there's like a little bit of like, you know, I send him some beats that I'm considering using for other people too, so it's like a little bit, but yeah.
I think the only way this is really going to continue to work is just respecting each other's vision and not getting in the way of like what he wants to do, for example, and vice versa. Right. And I think we've done it to this point. We obviously know like, you know, what each other wants to do, but also it's not stepping on each other's toes. I don't think we'd ever let to get to that point. So we're definitely in each other's business. But when he comes to me with something that like he's very certain on somebody else getting on, I'm like, do your thing, dude. Or when it's vice versa, like I want to produce or I want to get on a song with this producer, he's like, do your thing. It's very supportive, and it's a team, you know, essentially, but we're just again separate artists. So.
And I kind of know when I come up with a beat if it's a Quinn beat or if it's like something different. You know, I think the sounds have started, while they're still definitely in the same field, they've started to split a little bit. So I think like when I write something, I know like, okay, Mike, this is his bread and butter, so I give it to him. Or if it's something a little different that I can take and maybe let the production flex more, and I save it for that. Yeah.
And that's exactly what you did for 4 Feet to Infinity. Yeah. You have two other singers in there. Can we talk a little bit about the production of that record and why you chose these singers that are on the record?
Yeah. One, Nick Fowler, who goes by the name Straight Face on there. He was a college friend. He was in a band that I had like mutual friends with, and I was like, I just loved, he was always doing like this, I don't know, it's like more rock oriented, but like I loved his voice. So I gave him that song because it was like very different instrumentally. So I thought like his vocal over that would just be something totally different. I think that song, is, being honest, is the most like musical on the album. It's like kind of the most like out there. Right. And then Mafalda, the girl on Awake, I found her on SoundCloud, and I just like fell in love with her voice, and like it was great because she was like an indie artist, had like 2 songs out, not a ton of followers on SoundCloud, so I just messaged her with the song. And like young artists that are up and coming are so ready to collaborate, so it was great because she was just like totally into it. And then like we sent back a bunch of voice memos and kind of like hammered it out that way.
Were you able to work with them at all, like in the studio, or have you guys even met? Like this has all just been through the internet?
Yeah, mostly through the internet. Afterwards, I met Mafalda. Yeah, afterwards, like after the song was like finished. But like,
record with Nick straight.
No,
that's more of a question for you.
No, I didn't. I didn't record with him at all either. I like sent him, and he has like his own like record. It's so helpful when vocalists have their own recording setup, and they can just record and send demos. It's like really helpful. So both of them were able to do that for me.
So with this EP, it's 5 tracks on there. Why did you choose Kings of Summer as like the lead track for this?
Well, you know, that song, so like the development of that song was interesting because it started like I was going to just produce another Quinn song. But like when I wrote it and I had about a minute's worth of the song, I just like could tell there was something a little bit different about it. So I produced it out as an Ayokay song, as the first Ayokay song. So 4 Feet to Infinity was kind of like the follow-up to that song. It was meant to like pad that song and build like a project, a sound for me to introduce. And like, so the rest of the EP was kind of padding around Kings of Summer, I think. Kings of Summer was the vision for like my sound, and the rest are kind of just like, you know, to give it context. So it was definitely like the strongest song on there, and like it was the one that gave me my entire start, and I own so much to it, so like it only felt right. Plus having him on the vocal was like also felt right, because like that's the one I wanted to be pushing, is like me with him, because that's like how we've gotten our start.
Right. And there's a second song on there that Quinn's on it. Can you talk a little bit more about that song as well, or your experience with it?
Yeah, the record's called One and the Same, and that was something that we actually made in the studio with some really cool writers from Universal, actually, and we came up with this really unique. Alex had sent the instrumental to me prior to this session, right? And we brought it to these guys and made a really cool, you know, a couple melodies, and we applied the lyrics. And again, I didn't really think it was anything that we thought was like too explosive, but it made the EP, and it was just on Spotify's New Music Friday, and it's getting a lot of good numbers so far. So it seems like whatever we do, people are always attracted to it because they've seen the past work, and so we felt confident with that song specifically that, you know, while we didn't think it was like a massive hit by any means, it was something that fans of ours could relate to and still be really into. So it was like a record for like the Quinn and Ayokay fans. You know, like Ayokay did his own record now, but like whenever we do stuff, it's like we have like a little niche of people that always like bite onto it. So that was kind of like for them. So,
but it's definitely interesting. Like you could tell that song would never be on a Quinn album. There's, you know, the sound is different.
Yeah, there's a definite
and like,
aesthetic difference in terms of, yeah, you'd have to just hear it, but like the sound is definitely production wise different.
Yeah, I think my stuff is a little bit more like ethereal, a little more dreamy, experimental electronic, and his stuff is like the pop shit that like is great though, like the ear candy that's just like fresh and just great. Like those are like the ones I save for him, but the ones that are a little bit more out there and like kind of a little more heady, those are the ones that kind of fit on my sound.
And I agree with you on that, like the more dreamy. I'm a trail runner, so every time I'm out in the trails, out in the mountains in the middle of nowhere, like that's what I'm picturing. So it's like that's pretty cool how it like really vibes with it.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like we talk about it a lot, but like nature and like all of that is really influential on me. And like you get that feel, you get like that natural, like, you know, that's the feel. So I'm glad you get that from the music.
People always say they actually exercise to our music the most, which I find super interesting. But yeah, that's a really cool way of kind of listening to it. It fits a lot of vibes, but exercising is one of those things where always people are like, yeah, whenever I'm like jogging or like working out, I like to always put your music on. And personally, I don't really see it, but like I can't. Well,
I don't see it with exercising. I see it like with running, like because you're seeing so many different scenic views and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It's a scenic sound. So when you apply that to like what you're looking at, it kind of matches well with it. So
I think like another thing that's important to mention, just because like you bring it up, is I think what's really influential on my sound a little bit more than him is like we grew up in Michigan, which is like famous for its lakes. So like I'm a big influence of me is like, especially Kings of Summer is like the summers in Michigan, like Michigan summers on the lake. Like that's kind of like what I picture with the sound. But like that very natural feel like really bleeds into my sound a lot, I think.
Yeah.
So
it's funny. I recently, before I found out about you guys, I was out in Washington, and you know they have a lot of lakes out there as well. And I made a post about, don't you guys sometimes just feel like running straight to a lake and just diving in? And like after listening to your music, I'm like, that'd be like the perfect song to just put for that dive. Like
it's like the northwest of the country, and hopefully I know we'll be there for shows at some point, but like that is such a like if you couldn't picture Michigan, that is like the next ideal like geographical area for us, like with our music. So like we're dying, but I know what you're saying. Like that's perfect. Like that's the exact vibe we're going for. So
yeah, for my stuff, like that's where I picture is like the sense of like the great outdoors in the Pacific Northwest. Like that's how I picture my music. You know, that's awesome.
If I do a trail video and I add your music, I'm gonna have to send it to you. Next music video. So let's talk about your music. You're working on your debut. That's coming out sometime this year or sometime next year.
Next year. So late January, probably early February, we're looking at. With the tour going on now, it's kind of limiting us to making music. But once we get off tour, which is going to be in early December, late November, we're going to hit the studio as hard as possible. And we're pushing for a February, late January release. Really, really cool sounding, though. A lot of it is Ayokay still involved. About 70% of the production is his stuff. So people that know our music are definitely going to get that same taste, but I brought on some other producers who are kind of just catering to our sound and not tampering it with it at all. You know, they're just kind of making it like 2.0 sort of. So it's cool. I'm really excited. It's going to be about like a 12 to 11 record.
So you're going for the full album.
Yeah, full thing, because we haven't done this at this point. We've just put out like 6 to 7 track EPs. Right. Now it's really, with the label involved, we really want to make the push and give like the fans an official like project to hold on to. And so far, we're really excited. We're kind of like trimming the fat right now with songs. We have like 20 things in the works, but we're kind of like seeing what makes the cut and what doesn't, which we haven't done in the past, actually, because in the past we've been like, let's put out like a 6-track EP and let's make 6 songs and put it out. You know, we never like put in more time, because with us, our process really takes a while, and so we really want to make sure everything sounds perfect. Whereas since moving out to LA, it seems like we've cranked out stuff a lot quicker. I think it's just the way that the creative nature of like the community. It's like
everybody's doing something.
Exactly. You before you know it, you have like 5-6 songs, you know, in your SoundCloud, like, you know, like bank, I should say, and you're trying to see like what makes a project. But it's cool. Like we have a lot of stuff in the works, so expect that, like I said, late January, early February. So yeah.
And are you testing out any new material for your stuff here on this tour, or are you guys just trying to keep it to stuff that you guys are collaborating?
Yeah, we played a couple new records so far. we don't want to spoil too much because it's funny. Like we always like to just save things for like the official release date. Right. Obviously, we'll do some teasers, but like we don't really try out new songs all the time. But we have been doing it for these last couple of cities, and it's been a good response so far. And the fans are always loving to hear. Like when I say, "Do you want to hear new music?" It's always like an overwhelming yes. So it's cool to get people's like raw reaction to something they've heard for the first time, whereas we're playing like a song that's been out for months. Yeah. So it's a cool little switch up we do sometimes. But tonight we'll probably definitely try to preview something. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, nice. It's cool.
Outside of the music, you've been rocking this sick America sweater. So are you a skater? Did you grow up skateboarding? Like I grew up with America and Andrew Reynolds, so it's like
so much flack for this, but I can't skateboard for the life of me, but I just love.
What a poser! What a poser!
I love the skateboarding clothing. Like I always liked it, and so everybody comes up to me like, "Dude, like it's awesome seeing like a skater really like become a singer." I'm like, "Yeah, this is not really the case," but yeah. I really kind of just was attracted to the whole like style of skateboarding clothing and snowboarding, like all the outdoorsy stuff. I just like kind of liked at a young age, and trying to like not do too much of it now because it's gonna like kind of confuse people. But
start skating; it'll make everything easier.
I'll just start skating. Like he just got an electric longboard, so that's not really skating, but close enough. Yeah.
The realm.
So,
yeah.
As long as you're on the board.
Right. I'll just come on stage on a board and I skateboard and start the show. So yeah.
So you guys have 2 shows with Griffin. After that, you guys are back on the road for another couple of weeks or so. What else can we expect for you guys for the remainder of the year?
Well, I have a few singles that I'm trying to work on just to have in the bank while we're on tour to then like lead up. I mean, I release past 4 Feet to Infinity, and then mostly though the focus on is on his album now. Yeah. So
what not to interrupt, but what we'll be doing is Halloween night we're gonna be playing. I told you this prior, but we're doing the Fillmore in Detroit where we grew up. Right. It's gonna be really cool. We're doing that show with Diplo and Dylan Francis. Obviously,
so many big opportunities already. Like that's badass.
And the radio stations, I should say, in Michigan have been really pushing Kings of Summer, the song. Yeah. So this was sort of a radio show that they wanted to get us doing, and it's gonna be a great time. We have to find our outfits very soon for that. But, and then right after that, we start this leg with Louis the Child, this really cool up-and-coming 18-year-old producer duo from Chicago. They're just killing the game right now. We're going to do like 15 dates with them. And then like you said, once that's done, just going to get back to the studio and working on this album. So it's kind of like I mentioned earlier, it's limiting us slightly with putting out stuff just because we are traveling so much now. But once we get back December, early January, we're just going to crank out as much as we can. And again, expect something in like February or late January. So just a lot of stuff going on, but it's very exciting.